Okay, so I forgot. I don't have light. So if I'm going to read any more chapters tonight, I need to get it done like now. So we are on to chapter 23. Transcendent, Lisa Beeson. And I apologize, I just let a couple of my dogs out that have to be separated from the others. And they're getting their energy out, so it might be a little noisy, but we'll see how it goes. Chapter 23, we left off of Ari and Cam now being at Lothan Kale's apartment place, warehouse dealio, and they discovered, oh gosh, I don't know if I want to say in case someone clicks on this first. I guess it doesn't matter. You shouldn't be watching this first. We left off of Ari being shot and then getting sewn up by Lothan Kale, finding out that she's an alien and she got a tattoo. And turns out she has a lot of tattoos, but didn't know it. Ooh. On to number 23. Ari woke up with her face smashed against the cushion of the leather couch. She vaguely remembered dreaming of being held by strong, comforting arms. Excuse me. Actually, I need a little more liquid. It is hot and my voice is raw. And Peter, leave them alone, please. Ari woke up with her face smashed up against the cushion of the leather couch. She vaguely remembered dreaming of being held by strong, comforting arms. She couldn't remember seeing a face, but it felt like home. The dream quickly faded as Ari lifted her head and squinted at the bright shafts of late morning light pouring through the high windows. When her eyes adjusted, she saw Cam sprawled out on the floor between the couch and the modern glass coffee table, sleeping comfortably on a large sheepskin rug. He was still in his clothes from last night, and his long, shaggy hair was covering most of his face. Then she noticed that his hand was loosely holding on to hers, like he had fallen asleep like that, trying to give her comfort through the night. Oh, Cam. I'm trying to keep the light out. Keep the light out of your guys' eyes. It was touching to see how much... Go outside to play, please. It was touching to see how much he cared about her. She remembered that he had called her his family. And Ari knew in her heart that she had 3 older brothers now. He was her family too. Leave your sisters alone. Thank you. He was her family too. That was the thing about being a kid with no blood relatives. She had the freedom to choose the members of her family. And once she found someone worthy of the title, she branded their names on her heart forever. She really had to use the bathroom, so she slipped her hand from Cam's and cautiously tested her arm for any pain. But as she sat up and rolled her shoulder, she realized there was no pain at all, like she had never been shot. She stood up and tested her ankle. No pain there either. She didn't even feel sick from all the vodka she'd had last night. That healing rune is awesome. I think I swallowed a bug.
Hi, you handsome guy. Oh, you silly handsome guy.
That's Spock. That's my Spocky boy. Oh, you come to say hi.
Hi, bums. That's my Spocky boy. There's my Spocky.
Oh, my handsome guy. My handsome guy. Alright, what did I do with the lid? Oh no. Okay, hop down. Hop down. Okie dokie. Ow. Hi. And this is Hercules. This is Hercules. Oh, my bubs. My handsome guy. Oh, yes, I love you. Yes, I love you. Okay, hop down. Hop down. Down you go. Down. Oh, and there's the lid. Peter. I think I need to start over. This isn't going so well. I don't know. Do I push through or restart now? We're only 5 minutes in. I guess we're okay. All right. Let's try this again. That healing rune is awesome. She heard Kale's voice quietly talking to someone on the phone. She looked around and saw that he was pacing back and forth up on the second level. She guessed that's where his office and bedroom were. He made another pass by the railing, totally immersed in his conversation. When she realized that she had no pants on and she was standing there in just a t-shirt and her underwear, quickly wrapping up in a blanket, she walked over and found her backpack by the table. Cam must have brought it with him when they came upstairs. Most of the blood had been cleaned off the black nylon that had been against her back, but there were still reddish-brown smudges on the gray canvas. She'd have to get a new one at some point, she thought. It would be kind of gross to walk around with a blood-stained backpack. She slung the bag over her left shoulder while holding onto the blanket with her right hand, and shuffled over to a door that she hoped led to a bathroom. As she made her way over, she felt a pull, like when she had found the jewels, but this was so much stronger. It seemed to be coming from behind a large abstract painting that was hanging on the exposed brick wall to her left. He must have a whole bunch of them stored back there. But mysterious hidden caches of jewels would have to wait. Her bladder couldn't be ignored any longer. The bathroom was absolutely magnificent. The rest of the loft was pretty utilitarian, but Kale spared Peter and boys. But Kale spared no expense in here. It was a large space with floor-to-ceiling glass tiles of various shades of blue and green that looked like flowing water. There was an infinity tub in the middle of the room, and there was also a huge ultra-modern shower that took up almost a quarter of the room. It had 2 shower heads hanging down from the ceiling, and 3 walls of adjustable water jets that would spray from all different directions. Everything was immaculate and top of the line. Why would he need 2 shower heads, though? Shrugging off the complexities of adulthood, she decided to get down to business. Even the toilet seat was heated, which Ari appreciated very much. With that done, she took off the shirt and went over to look at her shoulder blade in the large mirror above the black marble double sinks. It was hard to get a good look at her back, so she angled a magnified shaving mirror that was attached to the wall to get a better view. Ari gasped. The dissolvable stitches Kale had put in were already gone. There was a scar going from where her arm met her torso, across her shoulder blade, and ending about an inch from her spine. That was close. But what really got her attention was that it looked more like it was 10 months old instead of only 10 hours. She brought the mirror closer so she could see her new tattoo. It was only about the size of a quarter, and the lines were so perfect, it almost looked like a stamp. The design was 3 spirals that connected in the center, all of which were surrounded by a perfect circle. It was iridescent like the inside of an abalone shell. She didn't hate it. I guess no more tank tops for me for a while. 13-year-olds don't normally sport tattoos. Which reminds me, she parted her hair so she could try to see the runes on her scalp. It was hard to see, but they started about 2 inches above her ears and wrapped around the crown of her head, like the laurel wreaths the Greeks used to wear. She could only see slivers at a time, so it was hard to make out what they actually looked like. How have I never noticed these before? She guessed that since her hair was so dark and thick, that it had always covered them up. And to be honest, how many times had I ever really needed to inspect the back of my scalp before? She couldn't stand to be covered in dry, crusted blood anymore. So she stripped down, took off Ruby's watch and Jamie's cuff, which now had a deep indentation from Briggs' tranq dart, and put them in her bag. She found the newsstand candy bars that she had stuffed into her bag last night and gleefully devoured 3 of them. As she was zipping her bag back up, something felt off, but she couldn't pinpoint it. She shrugged it off and chalked it up to the insanity that she had just been through. The whole night had been such a surreal experience. Ari had never felt intimidated by a shower before, but there's always a first for everything. There were so many buttons and knobs that she was afraid the thing might self-destruct if she pushed the wrong one. After tentatively trying the different combinations, she finally figured out how to turn it on, and it was the best shower she had ever taken. It felt like being at a spa. Kale had a variety of soaps and shampoos that smelled wonderful. She couldn't decide on which one to use, so she tried them all. And Ari had never felt that clean in her entire life. When she finished and was toweled off, Ari put on a pair of cut-off shorts she had made out of the jeans Ruby had bought her, and a gray V-neck t-shirt from Jamie. She missed them, and wearing the clothes they had given her made them feel closer. When Ari came out of the bathroom, Cam hadn't moved and was still passed out on the floor. She was worried that she might have drained too much of his energy last night, but just as the panic set in, he made a weird snorting sound and rolled over onto his stomach. He's fine. Kale was sitting in one of the chairs that faced the leather couch Ari had slept on, apparently waiting for her to get out of the bathroom so they could talk. One moment. Lord have mercy. Apparently waiting for her to get out of the bathroom so they could talk. It seemed that the kindness he had shown her last night was gone. Now he was all business. He was back in his usual attire of pressed slacks and a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, showing off the runes on his forearms. Now that she knew what it looked like, she could see that he had a couple healing runes himself, woven into the strange designs that covered him. She wondered how many times he'd had to use it to save his own life. Up close and in the light of day, Ari was able to get a better look at him. So far, she had only seen him from across the street, in a blurry background of a video, or at night after being shot. He looked to be in his late 30s, but his eyes seemed much older. He had an attractive face, but his haughty, condescending scowl ruined it. She put her backpack by the end of the couch and sat down on the soft brown leather. He sat there, looking at her with his eyes narrowed, as if she was some impossible math equation he just couldn't figure out. A bit intimidated, Ari tried to get the conversation started. Thanks for everything you did for me last night. If it weren't for you, I'd be dead, she said, nervously playing with the white strings coming off the bottom of her shorts. I honestly don't know how I'll ever be able to repay you. One of his dark eyebrows arched up as he leaned forward. It was just the opening he needed. Speaking of which... here it comes. I could use your help finding more stones like the one you have there, he said, pointing to the blue jewel she was wearing under her shirt. That's when it hit her. The reason she had felt off earlier. She hadn't felt the pull coming from the green jewel in her backpack. Just to make sure, she unzipped her bag and checked the inside pocket. Gone. That jackhole went through my stuff and stole my ring. Ari stared daggers at him. Inwardly, she was seething, but her voice came out cold. Give it back now. He looked right back at her without a hint of shame. You don't even know what they are. Just be grateful I let you hang on to that blue one around your neck. And if you skip out on me, I'll take that one as well. You're fast, but I'm faster, he warned. Ari was outraged. Cass had given her that jewel. It belonged with her. Where did you put my ring? Is it with the others you have behind that painting over there? She asked, pointing to the abstract painting hanging on the wall, while keeping her icy glare on Kale. Shock flickered in his eyes for a second, but he quickly recovered. What makes you think I keep anything behind there? I told you, I can feel them pulling at me. And it seems like you have plenty, so give back the one that's mine, she demanded. No. You are not a good man, Ari fumed. She knew it sounded childish, but she couldn't help it. He was infuriating. I wish Adam was here. He'd know how to handle this guy. I never claimed that I was. I only said I was the lesser of many evils. That's when Ari realized that Cale had never wanted to help them. He was only trying to help himself. If she had died last night or had been captured by the suits, he wouldn't have been able to use her. Maybe this wasn't a good idea. Ari was just a means to an end. She looked into Cale's opalescent eyes, which were so similar to hers, and wished she could read his intentions. It was so frustrating to finally find someone like her, only to have him turn out to be such a tool. If all of Chicago wasn't trying to hunt them down, she would have grabbed Cam and sifted out of there in that instant. Peter, chill out. As though he read her thoughts, Cale smirked. You're welcome to take on your chances out there where anyone thinks you two are terrorists. Or you can help me get what I need, and I'll protect you. The choice is yours. They both knew she had no choice. She was stuck with him, whether she liked it or not. Why do you need the jewels, or stones as you call them, so badly anyway? She sulked, slouching down on the couch. I just do. That's all you need to know, he said, glancing down at his watch nonchalantly. He was acting like it didn't matter if she helped him or not, but Ari could tell that finding those stones was important to him. So important that he had tracked her across the country for one. He needed her as much as she needed him. If you want me to help you, I need to know a lot more than that, she said, eyeing him warningly. I'm a teenage girl. I can make your life a living hell. Cale narrowed his eyes, thinking over how much to tell her so she'd cooperate. Right now, counting the ones you've found, I have 9 stones. I need 3 more to complete the set, he explained. We can lay low at my place in the English countryside until things cool down. Then we'll go on the hunt for the rest of the stones. He glanced down at his watch again. I scheduled a flight for the 2 of us that leaves at 1 o'clock. We're leaving here in 2 hours. Ari sat up. Wait, the 2 of us? What about Cam? I don't need Cam, he said matter-of-factly. I'm not going anywhere without Cam. It's my fault the suits are after him in the first place. I'm not leaving him behind to get snatched. Cale sat there unfazed. Grasping for straws, she threw out. He's a progeny. His eyes can see things a mile away and zoom in on them. And when I amp him, he can see through walls. That's got to be useful for a thief like yourself, she thought. Cale molded over. So he's a descendant. Can't you tell? His energy is brighter than a normal person's. They all look the same to me. That's racist, man. I might have to... I'm probably just going to have to redo this whole video, aren't I? Chill out. That's racist, man. Or at least... Oh, Lord have mercy. This is not going well. Oh, well. It's a short chapter. We're almost done. Let's just do it. That's racist, man. Oh, gosh. Hold on. Lordy. Okay. So, he's a descendant. Can't you tell? His energy is brighter than a normal person's. They all look the same to me. That's racist, man. Or at least speciest, Cam said from the floor. He sat up, tucking his hair behind his ears. Ari looked over in surprise. Cam! How long have you been awake? He stood up and stretched, then plopped down on the couch beside her. Long enough to hear you fighting for my spot on the plane. Thanks for that, by the way, he said, and patted her on the leg. Well, you don't look like death anymore. How are you feeling? He was trying to play it off like it was no big thing, but Ari could see the relief in his eyes. So much better. That rune was no joke. It feels like nothing even happened to me last night. Cam poked her back experimentally, wondering if she was being serious. When she didn't wince, he sat up and pulled down the back of her shirt collar, trying to get a look at her back. Shoo! It's not even red, or swollen or anything. I don't even see the stitches. I told you, Ari said, pushing him away and readjusting her shirt. How's your eye, by the way? She asked, noticing the black crescent that had formed under his left eye. Sucks, he said, poking at it and wincing. Then he turned to Kale. Did you really have to hit me so hard? Yes, Kale answered, unrepentant. Nice, Cam said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. He turned back to Ari. With that tattoo and scar you're sporting, you're starting to look pretty badass. You got some major street cred now, Pipes, he said with a grin. Just promise me you won't go overboard with the tats and end up looking like this guy. He motioned his head over at Kale. Watch it, boy, Kale warned. Don't joke about things you don't understand. You're only showing off your ignorance. Thinking about the runes reminded Ari that the only reason they had worked on her was because she wasn't human. What was she then? And what did the ones on her head mean? She looked at the runes on Kale's arms. Something about them seemed familiar. Then she remembered that Cam had said they looked blue to him. Your runes almost look Pictish, Ari thought out loud. She looked over at Cam, who was staring at her blankly. The Pict people lived in ancient Scotland and Ireland. They were known for their blue tattoos that covered their bodies, she explained, then turned back to Kale. The Picts came long after my people first came here. They tried to copy our runes because of stories they had passed down that said they had made us powerful. But they were missing the key ingredient, which, as it turns out, was lucky for them, since it would have killed them anyway, Kale explained. Okay, hold up. Let's get back to this whole thing about you and Ari not being human. I mean, what the hell are you then, man? Ari looked at Kale expectantly. This was the answer that she had been waiting forever since she had to leave Savannah. I don't have time for this, Kale said, avoiding the question and staring at Cam as though he was an annoying pebble in his shoe. That's it. It was like a switch went off in her brain. Ari's patience was shattered. All the pain and frustration she kept in check behind her calm demeanor came flooding to the surface. She was so tired of getting jerked around. After everything she'd been through, all the loss she had suffered, she was going to get some answers. No! You can't just say that I'm not human and then leave it at that, she burst out, standing up and facing Kale as he sat in his chair, coolly assessing her. My whole life, no one has been able to tell me who I am or where I came from or why I'm able to do the things no one else can do. The only clue I have to my past is that when I was found, I had bruises and sores that looked like I had been in shackles. Do you even understand how horrible that is? The only thing I know about where I came from was that I was abused? Then you come along with eyes like mine, the ability to sift, and runes all over you that are apparently like the ones that have been on my head for longer than I can remember, and you don't have time for this? She screamed. The more angry and indignant she became, the brighter Cam and Kale's radiant light became as well. She could feel her own energy growing and pulsing inside her. But once she got started, she couldn't stop. You steal from me, keep information from me, disrespect my brother and threaten to leave him behind for the suits, and then you expect me to help you? Who the hell do you think you are? Ari stood there, panting, preparing for the next wave of her tirade, when she noticed Cam in her periphery. His eyes were wide as he looked around the loft in amazement. He was brighter than she had ever made him before. Whoa, he breathed. Kale, who was the brightest person she had ever seen, had been getting brighter by the second. It was starting to get hard to even look at him. His breathing had quickened, and his hands were grasping the arms of his chair. "Get control of yourself, girl," he cautioned through clenched teeth. Just as she was about to unleash more of her fury on him, Cam called out, pointing at Kale. "Dude, your tattoos! They're all shiny and stuff! Is that what you were talking about, Ari?" Kale and Ari's heads both snapped around to look at Cam. "You can see that?" they both asked at once. Cam gasped and shoved himself further back into the couch. "Whoa! Your guy's eyes!" He said, looking back and forth between them. "They have all kinds of crazy colors swirling around in them." "Holy crap. I've amped him so much he can see the true colors of our eyes?" Ari closed her eyes and took a deep breath, trying to calm down. Even though she absolutely hated to admit it, Kale was right. She had to get control of her emotions. It would do her no good to make the person she was angry at even more powerful than he already was. When she felt like she had a handle on herself, she looked back at Kale. His light was starting to fade back to its normal brightness. "Oh, now they're back to being blue again," Cam said, sounding disappointed. "Man, that was a trip." Ignoring Cam, Ari looked Kale in the eyes, waiting for his response to everything she had said. "I don't have all the answers you want," Kale said, keeping eye contact and letting her see he was telling the truth. "I know, but you can tell me more than anyone else can." Her anger had deflated like a balloon in her chest, leaving her with only a sad resolution. "Tell you what, if you promise to answer my questions, honestly, then I'll promise to do whatever you need me to get the rest of the stones." Kale looked intrigued. "Obedience for answers?" he asked. Ari nodded her head, and Kale held out his hand to shake on it and seal the deal. Cam stood up. "Ari, don't you Cam stood up. "Ari, don't you dare make a deal with him like that. That man is the devil." Ari knew it, but she was so close to finally getting some answers. Taking a bracing breath, she grasped Kale's hand. "No, don't you do it. Don't you shake his hand," Cam cautioned, trying to keep her from making a big mistake. But it was too late. Kale and Ari already made the deal. When Ari sat back down on the couch, Cam shook his head disappointingly at her. "You know you just made a deal with the devil, right?" he asked, plopping back down on the couch. "I know," she said with a defeated sigh, and looked over at Kale. "Why do you need the stones?" she asked, knowing he had to give her an honest answer now. "They are the keys that will help me return back to my home." "All right then," she said, anticipation raising in her chest. "What are you, and where is your home?" With a sincerity and confidence that left no room for doubt, he said, "I am Ian, and my home is on Athlon in the Anu galaxy." Cam and Ari stared back at him, mouths open and eyes wide with shock. If someone had said that to Ari 6 months ago, she would have laughed in their face. But now, pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together. The Ions are the godlike race that made the progeny, aren't they? The humans saw the Anasaru as gods, but they were warriors sent as scouts for the Anunnaki to survey and colonize the planet. "Wait, who are the Anasaru and the Anunnaki?" Ari asked, confused. "The Anunnaki could be compared to Earth's United Nations, except on a much grander scale. The Anu galaxy has 4 life-sustaining planets: Athlon, Berim, Emuria, and Nibiru. After countless wars over dominance and resources, the leaders from the 7 higher races agreed to assemble on neutral ground of Nibiru to promote peace and interplanetary cooperation. They created a consolidated government made up of 12 delegates from each race. From amongst the delegates, they elect a consul. The 7 consuls preside over the Anunnaki assembly. Each planet still has their own governments, but they all answer to the Anunnaki hegemony. They created their own military force of warriors from each race, called the Anasaru, and annexed territory on Nibiru to establish the galactic capital city-state of Aserat. Why colonize Earth? Ari asked, trying to digest all the information Kale was giving them. Once the higher race's greatest minds were able to collaborate, technological advances grew exponentially, and Eseret became the center of commerce and industry. Intergalactic travel was made physically accessible, and they needed outposts for trading routes. Earth was one of those outposts. So the humans were just cool with letting you guys come and take over their world? Cam asked. Okay, I did the wrong voice for that. So the humans were just cool with letting you guys come and take over their world? Cam asked. What were they going to do about it? They were barely coming out of the Stone Age. The beings of Anu were a blessing to humanity. They gave them education and civilization. If they were such a blessing, why aren't they here anymore? Why did they leave? Cam countered. Once the outpost was established and stable, the Anasaru presence was drawn back. Some of the colonists who were granted land to utilize for resources soon became corrupted with the power they were given over the humans. They started warring with each other over perceived slights and border disputes. After much destruction and many casualties, the humans had had enough and revolted against their so-called gods. The fighting got so bad that the Anakanai had to intervene. Earth was becoming more trouble than it was worth, so they abandoned the outpost. Without the backing from the Anakanai, most of the colonists moved on to other, more lucrative ventures. But there were a few who stayed behind because they didn't want to give up the power trip of being a deity to the humans. Eventually they died out, leaving only their relics and crossbred descendants behind. Ari didn't like the condensation she heard in his voice when he said crossbred descendants, but she chose to ignore it for now. If they all left or died out, what are you doing here? A shadow crossed behind his eyes before he answered. I crossed the wrong people, and as punishment I was banished to this bloody primitive planet in the middle of nowhere. Whoa, does that mean you're like an alien criminal or something? Cam asked, intrigued. No, Kale answered flatly. So how did you get here? Ari asked. The people I crossed needed me to disappear, so they bribed a Carno ship to dump me off here on one of their pickups. What's a Carno ship? Cam and Ari asked together. It's an illegal slaver ship. They make passers-by here every once in a while, he said a bit uncomfortably. Ari sat up. You said one of their pickups? Does that mean what I think it means? I said it was illegal, but yes, human slaves are a high commodity on the black market. Their short lifespan has always made them a bit of a fascination to the rich and depraved. Bull. We would have heard if spaceships were coming and abducting people, Cam said skeptically. Haven't you? Kale countered. You haven't heard of planes and ships disappearing without a trace? Just because humans refuse to believe something doesn't mean it's not happening. But how? A spaceship big enough to make whole ships and airplanes disappear could have been picked up on our satellites and radars and stuff, Cam argued. To simplify it for you, they use wormholes that put them in strategic places around Earth that are known for strange occurrences. Like the Bermuda Triangle, Cam said excitedly. Kale nodded. That's one of them, yes. Their ships emit energy fields that essentially make them invisible to Earth technology. So when did you get here? Ari asked, curious if it was around the same time she was found. In the summer of 1948, he answered. How is that possible? Ari asked. That was almost 70 years ago, and you don't look older than 40. Are you immortal? Kale smirked. To humans, we might seem immortal, with our ability to heal quickly and the fact that we only age about 1 year for every 10 human years. Ari was confused. Is that just an iron trait? Her skin was able to take levethium, so she had healed quickly. But did that make her iron? Let me restart that. Ari was confused. Is that just an iron trait? Her skin was able to take the levethium, Lithium. So she had healed quickly. Did that make her iron? But she aged the same rate as humans. Most of Anu's higher races age relatively the same. We count age by cycles instead of years, he answered. What about the children? Do they age slowly too? Ari asked. The children age similarly to humans until they reach maturity. Then a metabolic change occurs that affects the rate of cellular breakdown and regeneration. I can't talk. Let me get some water. The children age similarly to humans until they reach maturity. Then a metabolic change occurs that affects the rate of cellular breakdown and regeneration. Is that why I suddenly have the appetite of a family of sumo wrestlers? My body is getting ready for the metabolic change? She asked. Kale narrowed his eyes as he considered her. He always seemed to do that when he was trying to figure her out. In your case, I can only speculate. But yes, sounds about right, he answered cautiously. You said that we were similar, but not the same? She took a deep breath, preparing herself for the next question. What am I? He looked her in the eyes. You're an anomaly. You shouldn't exist. Ari felt like she'd been punched in the gut. It was hard to breathe. Holy hell, man. That was harsh, Cam said as he grabbed Ari's hand to comfort her. What do you mean she shouldn't exist? Who says that about a person? Only certain races can breed together. Their energies and genetic makeup are compatible. For example, humans were found to be genetically neutral. Any of the higher races could mate with them and have thriving offspring. But some of the races are not compatible, like Ions and the Daisen from Ameria. Their energies are too strong and they oppose each other. If they conceived a child, once it reached a certain gestation, the opposing energies would be too much, causing the mother and child to die, Kale explained. In fact, during the wars before the Anakanai was formed, raping women was sanctioned by both armies for just that purpose. Kale had enough grace to look ashamed. But that practice was abolished once the peace accords were signed, and intimate relations between Ions and the Daisen were made illegal. So what does that have to do with Ari? Cam asked, confused, while Ari played with the strings on her shorts again, trying to wrap her mind around the fact that her existence was impossible. She shows both Ion and Daisen characteristics. She looks Daisen, but she has Ion eyes. She can sift, and her skin can take levithium, like Ions, but she's able to see radiant energy, which is a rare Daisen ability. Ari looked up. Wait, you don't see radiant energy? He shook his head. I only see the paths of their signatures, and that's only because I have this. He unbuttoned the top of his shirt to show them a strange rune under his clavicle. You also have abilities all your own, like the fact that you can amplify energy, and that you can sift so young. Ions aren't able to sift until they reach maturity. Is there anything else you're able to do? She decided to keep the dream walking to herself. She wasn't 100% sure if that was really happening anyway. Sometimes when I amp people's abilities, I can learn how to use those abilities myself, she said reluctantly. Explain, Kale demanded, his eyes narrowing. It's happened twice. The first time was a guy who could see an object's trajectory projected physically in front of him, and the second one was you. I can see the paths of energy signatures now. Ari tried to sound confident, but she was nervous of his reaction. She knew it was stupid, but it kind of gave her the feeling that, she was stealing. That's... Kale said, trailing off, shaking his head. I could tell that he wanted to say impossible, but that would have been redundant, since apparently everything about her was impossible. So, if it's not possible for the ions and the Dyson to produce a child that can survive gestation, how am I alive? Am I some sort of genetic experiment? If you are, then it wasn't sanctioned by the Anakanai, Kale said pensively. Species eugenics experimentation was deemed unethical and subsequently illegal. However you got here to Earth, it was probably for the best. The middle of nowhere is the safest place for you. If they knew you existed, they wouldn't let you grow to maturity. What would it matter if they killed me now or when I reached maturity? Ari asked. Usually childhood is the most vulnerable time for the Anu races. Their bodies focus all their energy in growing and preparing for the cellular change of maturity, that they don't exhibit their innate abilities until their bodies are ready to handle them, he explained. You shouldn't be able to sift yet. Frankly, you shouldn't be able to do anything you do. Once you reach maturity, who knows what you'll be capable of. The fact that you exist at all is a threat to the stability of the peace accords. Maybe that's why I feel so drained whenever I sift. My body isn't ready to expend that kind of energy yet, Ari mused out loud. How come I've had my ability since I was born? Cam asked, trying to keep up. The way the different species' DNA spliced together in human crossbreeds was different in each case. Sometimes they showed abilities that neither species had initially, leaving a highly vulnerable, short-lived being with heterotic abilities. And since their bodies weren't preparing for cellular metamorphosis, sometimes the abilities ended up manifesting earlier. How can you possibly know all this stuff? Cam asked. I'm smarter than you, Kale said, as if it was extremely obvious. Ari took the balloon stone from under her shirt and started rubbing it between her fingers, gleaning some comfort from its familiar warmth. She needed to change the subject before she broke down. How will the stones help you get home? I need the stones to activate the gate between Earth and Nibiru. There's still a portal to Nibiru? Ari asked, surprised. There used to be many, but after so many years, they've either been destroyed or are under the ocean. I believe I know a couple sites where one might still exist. Do you think it'll still work after so many years? Ari wondered. The only way to close a portal permanently is to destroy the gate, and for that reason the Anu engineers built them to last. So it should still work as long as I have 12 stones to activate it. Through the centuries, the true purpose of the stones has been forgotten. They were stolen, scattered across the globe, mistaken for common gems, and made into jewelry. It's taken me more than 60 years just to find the 9 that I have, he explained. It took you 60 years to find 7 stones? Buddy. Oh, it took you 60 years to find 7 stones, buddy. I found the last 2, she thought, as she put the pendant back under her shirt. Cam nudged Ari with the back of his hand. Have you shown him how you can make them glow yet? Kale's eyes cut over to Ari's and narrowed. Show me, he demanded. I can't. I need more than one for it to work, and you stole my other one, remember? Kale stared her down, then got up and went over to the painting on the wall. He swung it out like a cabinet door to reveal a wall safe with a biometric scanner that only opened for his handprint. Cam sat up and whispered, Balls! Cam sat up and whispered, Balls! I was hoping it was a combination lock so I could focus in and see the numbers. The safe opened and Kale took out his fancy briefcase that looked like the kind people carried diamonds in and handcuffed to their wrists. Kale sat back down in his chair and placed the briefcase on the glass coffee table. Opening it by placing his thumb on another scanner, he angled it so that Cam and Ari could see the contents. She had a hard time not showing her amazement. Oh, no. That is not appropriate. Hold on. Okay, we're back. She had a hard time not showing her amazement, but Cam had no such compunction. "Sweet baby Jesus," he whispered in awe. Before them sat 8 stones, all the same shape and size, but each was a different color. They each had their own slots in the case, sparkling in the sunlight. But there were also 4 empty slots awaiting the 3 stones he had yet to find, and the one around Ari's neck. Ari saw her green one, noticing that he had already taken it out of its setting on the ring. Man, this guy works fast. She went to reach for it, and as her hand hovered over the case, all 8 stones illuminated brilliantly. It seemed that the more stones there were, the brighter they shined. They could even see the blue one shining through the fabric of her shirt. Ari didn't even have to touch them. She just had to be close. Bringing her hand back, the jewels stopped glowing. Cale sat there, staring at her with that angry, confused look on his face. But this time it was way more intense. She wished terribly that she could read his intentions like she could with everyone else. After a long, awkward pause, his head moved in an almost imperceptible nod, as though he just decided something. "I've answered your questions. Now it's time for you to obey. Eat something and be ready to leave in an hour," he said as he closed the briefcase and stood up. "What about Cam?" Cale looked over at him disdainfully. "He can tag along as he keeps his bloody mouth shut." "Fat chance of that." "Oh, he will," Ari promised, elbowing Cam in the ribs. He nodded emphatically and pretended to zip his mouth shut and throw away the key. Cale made a derisive noise, then went up to the 2nd level to make more phone calls. Cam patted Ari's leg. Hold on. Whoosh. Cam patted Ari's leg. "Come on, let's eat. I'm starving." Ari sat there looking down at her hands, trying to process everything Cale had told her. "You go ahead. I'll be there in a minute," she said. "Wow, this is the first time I haven't seen you drool at the mere mention of food," he teased, trying to coax a smile out of her. "It's just finding out that I'm the result of an illegal science experiment and an alien hegemony wants me dead. It's a little hard to take," she answered dejectedly. Cam wrapped his arm around her shoulders. "Well, personally, I think it's extraordinary. You're literally an illegal alien." Ari gave him a sideways look. "Did you seriously just say that?" she asked, and was met with that impish grin of his. "Hi, baby." A confusing mixture of tears and laughter escaped as she rested her head on Cam's shoulder. He brought her in for a comforting embrace. "And don't think I didn't hear that part while you were verbally flaying Mr. Grumpy Pants where you referred to me as your brother," he said, resting his head on top of hers. "Just so you know, from one crossbreed to another, I think you're perfect." The tears were flowing freely now. After everything that had happened, Cam was still by her side, believing in her even when she didn't. "Thank you, Cam," she said while wiping away her tears. "You're pretty perfect, too." "I know," he said matter-of-factly, which made them both burst out laughing. "Come on, Pipes. Let's go eat all of Cale's food and not do any of the dishes." She nodded enthusiastically, and they got up and went over to the kitchen. Well, we're already at 50 minutes, and the last chapter of the book is only 3 pages. So let's just push right through. Chapter 24. When it was time to leave, the 3 of them rode the elevator down to the garage. They got into the sports car Ari had seen the previous night. Cam had to sit up front with Cale since his legs were too long for the back seat. Ari squeezed in behind them, and they set off, out of the old factory. Cale drove them out of the city to a private airfield. Cam was on his best behavior, trying to keep his mouth shut for the whole drive, but was unable to hold back when they approached the gates. I don't have a passport or anything. Is that going to be a problem?" "No," Cale said. "Oh, well, okay then. Are you part of the Irish Mafia or something? Can you just get things done?" Cam asked, some of the smart aleck creeping back into his voice. No, Cale said as he pulled through the gate without stopping, driving straight onto the tarmac. We gotta get past these monosyllabic words. We gotta get past these monosyllabic answers, man. I mean, it works for your whole mysterious alien badass persona you're going for, but there's definitely a lack of communication happening here. We're not on the plane yet, boy. Cam took the hint and shut his mouth as Cale parked the car near the private jet. A large man with graying sandy blonde hair and a curly red beard was walking around the plane, making sure everything was ready for the flight. When he heard the car pull up, he shaded his eyes and walked towards the car with a broad smile on his face. Cale rolled down the windows and told them to stay in the car. He got out and walked over to the large man. Through the open windows, Cam and Ari could hear the man's gregarious voice booming across the tarmac. Cale! Reed, thanks for good... gosh, I've lost it. Cale! Reed, thanks for getting all this together on short notice. They shook hands and gave each other a man hug, patting each other on the back. Not a problem, my friend. It's nice to be back over the pond anyway, Reed said. He had a slight Scottish accent. I went a little deep with it, but oh well. Cale and Reed continued their conversation, but they had lowered their voices, so it was harder to make out what they were saying. A second man came out of the plane, who Ari assumed was another pilot. His head was shaved, hiding his receding hairline, and he kind of reminded Ari of a bulldog. Not so much in looks, but in stature and demeanor. He looked like he'd be more at home in a fighter jet than a private plane. Cale shook his hand, then motioned for Cam and Ari to get out of the car. As they came over, he introduced them. Reed, Tober, these are my wards, Ari and Cam. They'll be traveling with me from now on. Tober gave them a slight nod. Reed, however, burst out with, I didn't peg you for a family man, Cale, then gave Cam a robust pat on the back. I'll have to watch out for this one, though. He looks like a scrapper, he said, teasing Cam about his black eye. But before Cam could say anything, Reed moved on to Ari. Well, aren't you up, honey little lass? His eyes cut to Cale. You're gonna have to watch out for the lads around this one when she gets older. Ari felt her cheeks get hot as she looked down at her shoes. Compliments about her looks always made her embarrassed. She never understood what people saw when they said stuff like that to her. Maybe it was just her strange coloring that got people's attention, because she never saw anything special in the mirror. She was just her. Cam chuckled at her discomfort and playfully nudged her with his elbow. Yeah, I'll be sure to do that, Cale said gruffly before going to get his stuff out of the trunk of his car. That's all you have with ya? Reed asked. Cale locked up the trunk. Yeah, we're traveling light this time. They all began walking towards the plane. Cam and Ari trailed behind a bit. Dude, this is a Gulfstream G200, he whispered to her as they walked up the steps onto the plane. Dang, that's so posh! Ari didn't know much about private jets, but this one sure was swanky. How could Cale afford something like this? Take a seat. Oh no. Take a seat. We'll be taking off in a minute or so, Reed told them. Cale glared over his shoulder and gave a look that warned Cam and Ari to behave before the three men went into the cockpit. There were 4 seats in the front that faced each other with a table in between them. Then beside that was a long couch that ran down the right side of the cabin. Ari and Cam both went for the 2 pivoting chairs in the back by the flat-screen TV. Have you ever flown before? Cam asked her as he swiveled his chair to face her. Yeah, I have once, but not in a private jet. This is ridiculous. I know, right? What do you think he does to be this rich? I still haven't ruled out the mafia. Before Ari could answer, Cale came out of the cockpit and sat down in one of the seats that faced the table. The plane started to taxi to the runway, so Cam and Ari swiveled their chairs forward. Here, for your ears, Cam said as he threw her a stick of gum. She caught it. Thanks. For some reason, her ears never popped in high altitudes, but she appreciated the gesture, so she popped it in her mouth anyway. Reed's voice came over the intercom telling them to prepare for takeoff. At least that's what Ari thought he said. It was hard to tell between his accent and the intercom static. The plane sped up, and she felt the familiar stomach drop as the plane lifted off the ground. From her window, Ari looked down at the ever-changing topography of the ground below them as they swiftly made their way towards the Atlantic. She thought about everything she was leaving behind. Her family, all the friends she made along the way, and the monsters who wanted to hunt her down. Looking ahead towards the horizon, she wondered what the fates had in store for her now as she leaped into another abyss. And we've finished the book! We've finished Transcendent 1, book 1 in the series by Lisa Beeson. That is the end. How very exciting a story is that? And I will be moving on to book 2. Well, not right now. I'll film it later. But the next book, Outlier, book 2 of the Transcendent series by Lisa Beeson. That's what we'll be doing next. And Ari and Cam are leaving America with Loth and Kale headed to England. And now she knows she's an alien and she's got tattoos and she's been shot. And oh my gosh, like crazy, right? And the story only gets crazier, I guess you could say. Oh my gosh. I'm excited. I can't believe we've finished one whole book now. And soon we'll be moving on to the next. But I got to start getting ready for work now. So thank you for joining me whenever, people do start joining me. And fare thee well. Peace.